I'm Cindy, and I am sitting outside in my friend's backyard by her pool, trying to figure out what the heck to do with my life. And because my situation is a little unusual, it's not as unusual as I thought it was, but it's a little unusual, I decided that I was going to document this. Also, I've always wanted to have a YouTube channel, I'll be honest. I don't really expect a lot of people to follow me. I have no grand adventures, but if one person can benefit from my life experiences, that's kind of worth it because I've gone through a lot. I look younger than I am, so most people think I'm like 24, 25. Some people get it closer, but most people think I'm younger. I'm really 31, and I have been married to my best friend for a decade. My husband is an amazing man. And this week, I dropped the bomb on him that I'm gay. And we're getting a divorce. And my whole life is completely turned upside down. I want to fake it and pretend like I'm fine, everything's fine, we'll be good. But I'm not fine. My husband's not fine. We are really struggling, and a lot of people are being really supportive and really kind, but nobody can understand how I lived my life for a decade married to a man as a gay woman, and or even worse, I didn't even fully realize I was gay. So you're like, how do you marry somebody without realizing you're gay, right? I dated before my husband, and no, I didn't realize I was gay. But I'm going to straight up say that's 100% because I didn't let myself realize I was gay, not because there weren't signs. So to start, context, right? Context is the most important thing. I'm just going to say right here, and I know that there's going to be people off the bat who are going to disagree with me, but this right here, my life, is an example why representation in media matters. I never saw a lesbian romance. I never read a lesbian romance until this year. I'd never seen lesbians, right? I'm 31. When I was in 8th grade was the very first gay marriage in the United States ever, right? Like, my life, we were just barely starting to really talk about this because everything else was hush hush. So it was when it was really starting to become in the forefront. It was when I was a teenager. By that time, I had already had my first crush, and misplaced it and miscategorized it already. So context matters, right? I had no context to explain what I was feeling. None whatsoever. Here we'll start with my fake first crush and my real first crush. My fake first crush was in 4th grade, and all the girls were like, oh, boys. They were just starting to be interested in boys, right? Up until 4th grade, it really had been boys have cooties type of attitude, but in 4th grade, everybody wanted to talk to boys and to do things with boys. And I mean, not really, because we were still just starting, but everybody had crushes, it felt like. And if you didn't, you were weird. And so my friends are like, oh, what boy do you like, Cindy? Cindy. Well, actually, at that time, I went by Cynthia. So it was, Cynthia, what boy do you like? And I'd be like, I don't know. And they kept pressuring me, and I looked around at my class, right? The boys I knew. And a lot of the boys I knew were dumb and jerks and trying to compete with me. And I mean, not that I don't like competing, because competing is fun, but that's not... when somebody's trying to prove they're better than you, it's not super awesome. So I saw this kid. He was Native American, and he was super nice. Good guy. We'll call him K. You can guess which K name that is, but K. He was awesome. He was a good guy. And I thought he was cool, and I wanted to be his friend. So I felt different about him than I felt about every other boy I knew. Every other boy was dumb. And here was this kid who was nice to me and treated me well, and I wanted to be his friend. And so I assumed that these feelings of wanting to be a friend, that excitement of a new friendship, were a crush. So my very first crush that I ever knew about was with Kay. And that's it, right? That's what I have to tell you about Kay. That's all I really remember about him. And one time getting into debate about whose family was poor, because that was apparently a thing we talked about in my elementary school. But yeah, no, I don't really remember anything about him beyond the fact that he was nice and Native American and treated me good. On the other hand, my first female crush was M. We'll just say M. And she had brown hair and her eyes were always kind of sparkling, and she was gregarious and adventurous and always being sporty and playing, and she just lived life to the fullest, and I just admired her so much. I still know where she is in her life, not that like I'm a weird stalker or anything like that, but like that feeling of a first crush were so important to me that I friended her on Facebook at some point in time. Like that connection was different. My context to interpret that was I had read Anne of Green Gables, and in Anne of Green Gables, Anne befriends Diana, and Anne has never had a friend before in her life. So this little girl, Diana, comes into her life and wants to be around her, and Diana, Anne just like worships the ground Diana walks on, right? She worships the ground Diana walks on. And so because I worshiped the ground that this M walked on, I thought that she was my Diana. And I can't remember the exact words that Anne uses. It's been a long time since I've read Anne of Green Gables. But she either calls her bosom buddy or a bosom friend or something like that. And that's what I thought M was. I just thought she was my extra special female friend. Which, I mean, I guess she was. She was my extra special female friend. But I didn't really interpret it as romantic because I had no context that you could have romantic feelings for a girl. I mean, it's not that I had never heard the word lesbian before, because I had. I actually defended a girl who was called a lesbian the year before. But I didn't really fully understand it, and I had no context. So, in the heteronormative world that I lived in, I assumed that my actual crush was a friendship, and that the friendship I wanted was a crush. I had the entire world backwards. That's how things move forward in the future. Every single crush I had was my extra special friend. And every single guy who I wanted to be friends with became a crush. And that was very confusing. And I think this is one of the reasons that some of the people who know me are going to be really confused, because they're like, oh, she was almost like boy crazy in junior high, right? No, I just knew a lot of really cool guys who wanted to be friends with. I just wanted friends. I like friends who are guys. I don't know. It's easier for me to be friends with guys in general. And I'm sure some of that has to do with the fact that I have so many brothers right around me. I understand how guys think. It's easier. It's more natural to be friends with guys for me. It just is. Always has been. But anyway, my point is I got it backwards my whole life. The moment I could have recognized it, I was in 8th or 9th grade. Again, 8th or 9th grade, right? This is time people start figuring themselves out. I was in 8th or 9th grade, and I was standing outside my school. I don't remember. I think I was walking home or to my best friend Laura's house. And as I was walking, I was thinking about the debate that was happening at the time. Like, nowadays, if you say that being gay is a choice, people are like, really? You're right. Except for in few circles, most people realize that being gay is not a choice. But when I was 14, that was not a true statement. It was a serious debate that was happening, and everybody was arguing with each other. Was being gay a choice? Was it not a choice? And I'm me, so I'm super logical. So I sat and thought about it, and I thought about what my life would be like if I was gay. And I was like, why would anybody choose that? Nobody would choose that, right? I knew for a fact that my parents would be super, super angry. I knew that it would affect my religion. I knew that it would affect all these different things. And I was like, there's no way in the world I would choose to be gay. And that was a moment that I could have had clarity because it got better. I'm sitting there and I was like, but at the same time, I could choose to date one of my female friends if I wanted to. So instead of being gay is a choice, for me, I chose to not be gay. And that's not something you can actually do, right? So it wasn't that I actually wasn't gay, it was that I stuffed those feelings hard. Every single time anything ever popped up, I stuffed it. I stuffed it. So much so that it wasn't on the forefront of my mind. It just wasn't. It wasn't on the forefront of my mind. I didn't think about it. I didn't know because I didn't let myself know. Because in the context of my world, being gay was a really bad thing. I'm so glad that the world has changed. And I know that a lot of the people who I love aren't. A lot of the people I love dearly are going to have a hard time with the fact that I'm coming out as gay and that I'm owning it. And I don't blame them because I understand. I grew up in the same cultural context. I know why that they're there. But I hope that they can extend grace to me, sure, but also to other people like me. Because being gay is not a choice. I didn't choose this. I chose to ignore it for 30 years, or not 30. I didn't have my first crush till I was about 10. So for like 20 years. For 20 years, I chose to ignore this. But you can't fight yourself forever. So there's a lot that happened to get me to recognize the fact I was gay. But it really started a couple years ago. I recognized there was something missing in my marriage. And I love my husband he's the most important person in the world to me. Not a single other person in this world matters more than he does. But there still was something missing. And I could feel it. And I saw that he couldn't feel it. So I figured it was on my end, which is a true statement looking back, right? But I started to explore, and I recognized that because of my cultural context, the culture I grew up in, I suppressed my sexual feelings. And so I started to explore that, and I'm not going to go into how or what I did or why I did it. A lot of it was mental health work, right? Accepting myself as I am. This is who I am. This is what I want to be, right? And I started exploring things, and my attraction did not increase towards my husband. What happened is I started to notice girls. About a year ago, it got serious when I had a client come in, and when I saw her, my heart thumped in a way that I hadn't felt for a long time. I recognized that this was an attraction to a woman, and I started to be earnest in my exploration. And my first decision was that I was bisexual, right? Because if I'm bisexual, then it doesn't affect my marriage at all. It doesn't affect anything in my life except for the fact that, I like girls, and that's great. And I still was under the delusional idea that I had been attracted to men in the past, because I hadn't really explored that piece yet. So I went for a while realizing I was attracted to girls. I eventually came out to my husband as bisexual, and he was cool with that because, like I said, bisexual doesn't really affect anything besides the fact I like girls, right? Just because I like girls doesn't mean I have to be with a girl. If I like boys, then I can be with my husband. Men and women, I guess I should say, instead of girls and boys. But yeah, so this is rough, sorry. Yeah, I came out as bisexual, and I kind of left it alone But I tried to join a Facebook group, and it's not a very active group, so it took the moderator forever to get me in it. And when they did, I posted, and then I got some responses, but not really anything that was helpful. And I kind of forgot about it, figuring it was a bust. And there was plenty of other things going on in my life, so I didn't worry about it. But then somebody commented, and they recommended a particular subreddit, and I'm going to tell you what it is, because if you're in a similar boat as mine, it could be really useful for you. And it's called Late Bloomer Lesbians. And I got on there and I read their master doc on CompHet, which is compulsary heterosexuality. And the basic idea is, especially for women, being heterosexual isn't just a default, it's something that you kind of have to do, unless you're like a rebel. And me not being a rebel, I just went through life checking the boxes. When I first read the document, there was a lot that didn't apply to me, so I was like, oh, I'm good, like I can just be bisexual. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, it's a master doc, which means it has everybody's experiences in it. So I went back and forth for a couple months. It feels like a couple months. I don't even know how long it was. This summer I've been going back and forth whether I was bisexual or gay, a lesbian, based off of what I was reading on there. And I would be like, no, I'm bisexual, and have myself convinced I'm bisexual. And then I would read something else on there, somebody else's statement, somebody else's comment, somebody else's experience, or something from the master doc, and it would hit me like a ton of bricks that, no, you're just gay. And I finally accepted it a week and a half ago. So all this has kind of moved fast. I finally just admitted to myself I'm gay. And I went for a little trip despite COVID because I needed to clear my head and figure out when I tell my husband, how I tell my husband, etc., etc., etc. And so I did. I went on this trip. I figured myself out. I came out to the very first person I came out to, which was she's been my best friend since kindergarten. And I came home, and the next day I knew I couldn't wait. I'm really bad at keeping secrets. Like, okay, I can keep secrets for other people sometimes, but my own secrets I'm really bad at keeping. This is one of the reasons that this video is happening, is because I'm not going to be able to keep the secret that I'm gay very long, and I want to give people an explanation so that I don't have to explain this a million times. I can just refer them back to the video. Please watch this. Then they can ask questions, right? So I geared myself up and I talked to my husband, and that was the hardest conversation I've ever had in my life, up until the next hardest conversation I ever had in my life, followed by the next hardest conversation I ever had in my life, followed by yesterday us deciding to get divorced, which was the hardest conversation of my life. And there's still a piece of me that thinks I made the wrong decision, because I have 10 years with this man and I do love him. And there's a piece of me that's like, oh, you can just pretend, it'll be okay, just pretend. But I know that down the road, it's going to become a problem. Like right now, I might be fine. But eventually it's going to be a problem. And it's not fair to string him along and let him think everything is fine when I'm having these feelings on the inside. So we decided to get a divorce. It was mutual. I didn't want to say the words. He's the one who said them. But I didn't argue with him. I just cried. Because apparently that's what I do. I'm good at crying. I've learned that in the last few days. I'm really good at crying. I need to carry around tissues with me everywhere I go right now. So I'm kind of surprised I haven't actually cried yet during this video. So that was really it though, that's my life. And now that I'm getting a divorce, I'm 31. I recently graduated. I just recently got a degree in biomedical engineering, so I'm already looking for jobs. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to live, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. My family is huge, and so my oldest sister has a son who's like 24. I think he's 24. Something close to that, maybe 23. I don't know. Anyway, you get my point. And he and his wife live in Washington. There's a chance that I'll go up and live with them. There's a chance that I change my mind and go somewhere else. But my whole life is in front of me, and this is going to be one wild ride. That's all I'm going to say. This is going to be one wild ride. I don't have any dreams that don't include my husband, really. I mean, I've always wanted to be an author, but I can't make money doing that right now. So, yeah, where do I want to live? What do I want to do? I don't know. Gotta figure it out. One step at a time, one day at a time. If you are somebody who's going through something similar, feel free to reach out. If you're here to trash on me, you can try, but I'm really not going to respond to you because I don't care. I'm doing the best I can with my life. That's all any of us can do. And this is the best I can do, is figure out who I am and what I'm going for. So, join with me on this journey of figuring out my life. And I will talk to you guys later.